Welcome to the Fill Your Cups podcast. We're your hosts, Morgan
and Hailey.
Hello, everybody. Today is a bonus book club episode. Usually at this point, Bailey goes, but today I have Hailey with me. So this is a fun one because this month's book we read Frozen River, and it was Hailey's book choice. And since Bailey's out on podcast maternity leave, I thought it would be fun to bring Hailey on since you got to choose it.
Yes.
And it was a really interesting book.
It was intense.
Yeah, very intense.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty highly rated in the group too.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like a 3.7 overall. Is what it ended up being.
Oh, in the group? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was on Goodreads?
Goodreads, I think.
Because I thought
I was looking on Fable when I had it, which I don't know if it's different. But I think it was a 4 point something.
I was going to say I felt like it was really highly rated.
Yeah, it was
on
pretty good.
Goodreads. And that was something when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is probably a big reason that you chose it because it was a 4.38. Really high.
Wow. Yeah, that is really high.
Really, really high.
Yeah.
And I just realized I never rated it, so I'm going to do that. But yeah, so really good book. It was, so Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon.
Lawhon.
I'm going
to say Lawhon.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I would like, since you're the one that chose it and we have you on this time, I would love to hear how you selected it.
Yeah. So it was probably April or May, I think, when I was looking at it. I had a patient, I'm a physical therapist. And so I was talking to a patient. I talked to multiple patients about books, but when they're doing things, people like it a lot more when you talk to them about stuff they like instead of me just making them hurt and not have fun. So we talk about whatever, but there was one lady in particular, and she had read The Measure, which is another book we read back in May.
Yeah,
I think that was a May pick.
So, yeah, that was our picnic book club.
Yes, yes. So it was before that, but I was talking to her about it, and she had read it prior, and we were going through like, what should I pick? Mine's not until I think October, September pick, and so I was like, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe I should start looking now. And so we were looking, I was just like going through Amazon while I was monitoring her doing her exercise. But I was going through Amazon, I was looking through and I showed her this one. She was like, I like that. She's like, maybe that will be my next pick. Cause I was just talking or like showing her different ones and we were going over. And so I've had it like bookmarked since I think April.
Wow.
Because it was before we talked about The Measure, but I was actually, so I think it was April.
Yeah.
Is when it was April.
Would you
early
say,
May.
you would classify this one as historical fiction, right?
Yeah, I would say historical fiction.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which was so interesting because, so we did our bonus book club episode on Broken Country for last month. And these two, the setting was very similar.
Yeah, it was.
To where it was kind of back in the day. Both main characters were on a farm.
Right.
They were both wives. They both had like very devoted husbands.
Yes. Oh gosh.
And obviously the biggest difference was their profession.
Right.
Right. But even some of the things of, what's the main character's name in this again?
Oh man.
I know we both read.
I read like 3 books since then.
Same. Yeah. So
I'm terrible.
It is Martha.
So, I wanted to say Mary.
Yeah. Well, honestly, because it's from her point of view, they don't actually say her name that much.
Yes. Like I hear it in Ephraim's voice. Like whenever it is Martha, I'm just like, oh, she's in trouble.
Yeah, Martha. Yeah. I know at some point he's like, I thought better of you or something like that. But
which I have feelings on that part, but I also understand.
But it was interesting because so Martha, like a lot of her homesteading stuff was really similar to the last main character, so it was really interesting, but the stories were vastly different, I feel like, because this one centered around Martha primarily as a midwife.
Right.
And around, I think it just was a commentary on women in general and women in society, especially at that time.
Absolutely.
So I thought it was really thought-provoking and very intense.
Yes.
and a little hard to read, to be honest.
Oh, no. Some of them were definitely gosh, I picked the women last year, and I was going through this one. I was at my mom's house and I was talking to her about it because I was like, Mom, I think you would love this one. My mom, like, I definitely got a lot of my reading, like, especially historical fiction, women's health, that kind of stuff from my mom, because she loves that kind of stuff. Like, she is all about, like, our whole thing growing up with my mom was like women empowerment, feministic type stuff. I love it. My mom is, shout out mom. But that her big thing and why I love it too was anything with us growing up. She always said, like, have a man that you love, but do not depend on him. Like, don't do that kind of stuff. Find something for you. And I loved Martha. I love female characters that's their main thing. And so she
had her own thing.
Yeah. And so I love that. And the women, it gets a little rough in some parts. Yeah. But I was talking to her and I was like, Mom, I chose another one. Like real female empowerment type stuff. And I was like, but this one is so good. And I was like, but I chose another, like, kind of hard read for everybody. And I was like, it's not as long as the women. Yeah. And she's like, it's okay. She's like, I think, like, because she hasn't read it, so I didn't want to give parts away. And I was like, I can't tell you why, like, certain things, but there's, like, some stuff in there that's, like, kind of hard. And she was like, it's okay. She was like, if they're gonna read it or not, and she's like, maybe just give, like, a shout out to the, like, moms or anything too. And I hadn't gotten to the last part that Shelby had sent, like, a hey, trigger warning, because there's FYI, guys, there's no trigger warnings at the beginning of this book. There are some trigger warnings.
There are not.
Okay. I didn't see any at the front.
There are. Yeah, and people that listen to the book club episodes know that we talk about spoilers anyway.
Right. Okay.
But the trigger, there's not trigger warnings at the beginning, but there really should.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
I don't know that there should be necessarily, but just that. I honestly, like, the hardest part was like the rape.
Yes. And I think it's she gets not terribly graphic or terrible, but very, like, visual. You can feel yourself. If you have had that experience before, you can kind of feel yourself in that moment. It's kind of what I experienced. And I was just, like, my heart was racing. I was flying through the pages. And my husband was like, are you, like, because when I get really excited, I, like, sit forward and something's happening. And he was like, oh God, what's happening in the book? And I was like, and I was like, this is rough. So I was kind of, like, rolling through it. And so, Shelby brought that up, and I hadn't gotten to that point yet. But then afterwards, I was just like, whew, that was good. But, like, man, there's some things in there. And my mom was like, oh, let me see. Like, I don't see a trigger warning on there. She's like, that's interesting, because you would think a book this, like, big, which is, like you said, I don't think it's anything enough that's not, like, in a thriller book that they might talk about, like, guts spilling out or something in there or all that. But it can be, like, triggering for people who have had the experience.
It's so interesting, trigger warnings, because Bailey and I were just talking about this, like, a day or two ago, where she was opening it's called If It Makes You Happy, this, like, rom-com-y fall vibes book that I just bought recently. And I bought it because I wanted a fall vibes book, and I was just feeling impulsive. Right. And so I see the cover. It's totally Gilmore Girls-esque. There's a dog on the cover. There's fall leaves. What more do I need? I bought it. And so in the beginning, it gives content warnings, and there's this little note, and it says, here's some content warnings. And they're like, cheating, parent dying from a heart attack,
interesting,
like, just some very broad general things that, like, I almost feel like one of them was like heartbreak or something, like something very
interesting.
And obviously some of that, and I read this book, I would tell you that it probably needed 0 trigger warnings. When you're actually going through it. It was a full rom-com. It was not intense at all. Like, there were I mean, like, there were heightened emotions, but there were probably 12. Adultery, I think, was on there or something like that. Like, there were like 12 different trigger warnings. And Bailey was like, man, we've gotten so soft in society. Like, because there's a balance, right? Like, sometimes you do, like, just for the sake of mental health. I love that we acknowledge that it's good to, like, prepare someone or give someone a heads up so that they can avoid that if they don't want to move forward in it. or reading it or watching it or whatever. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, do you really have to put like cheating on there? You know,
right,
is that really going to trigger somebody like to have a psychological like meltdown?
Right.
I mean, it may be hurtful and it might bring up past memories, but it's interesting to know because like that it's so funny. Like this book had 0 trigger warnings.
Yeah.
And the scenes were way more intense, I thought. And then this other book has like 12 trigger warnings that like really I don't think it needed at all.
Right.
And so I think it's probably up to the author's discretion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did think that was interesting. And is this a newer book or an older?
2023, I think, is when it came. 2022,
so
2023. So it's not anything. I agree. Like, I think there could be things on there. I think if you read it, you know, it's in the late 1700s. It's when like slaves were still 100% a thing. It's when women had little to zero rights. Like even in this book, that was one thing that like some of the girls called on of like, no way this girl would have survived sassing some of the people the way it was. And like, no way would she have gotten away with that. And, you know, but then there are certain things too of, you know, we're talking about multiple births. We're talking about like children dying during birth, that kind of thing too. I think if you're getting through the book, like this is a hard book regardless. And so if you want to think that, and it even has it on there too. I think on the description, it said like a woman had been raped and 2 men. And so it's just that's like, enough. You know, if you're okay picking up a book, regardless of if you have anything, I think it goes to the whole thing of like, it's your discretion. No one's forcing you to pick up the book. No one's telling you to do that. Of yes, it is like a kind thing to do for people who have had that and for people to feel safer in environments. For things too, of being able to pick up a book and feel like they can do it. But like there's an author, Emily McIntyre, I think.
Sounds right.
And so she wrote like the like Never After series is what it's called. And it's like 6 different books and it's like from the villain's perspective of different Disney movies. And those are spicy. Oh my gosh, they are
I need to read these books.
They are spicy. They're fantastic. I love them. But she put on the thing, she was like, for the sake of like certain things, I don't want to give anything away. If you need a trigger warning list, you can go to my website. Is what she had. And so, but on there, she put like, listen, this is not like a cute little retelling making Captain Hook seem nice. This is like morally gray, like screwed up people. And this is their, it's not their origin story. It's like a retelling. So it is like modern day, way different.
I love
it's just like a couple names and stuff like that. And so, but she has on there, she's like, if you need it, it's there. But like, we all know like coming into this book, and if you've read one of my other books, you know like I'm not going to hold back on things. And so it's just like, so then there
when you've talked about this series before, it always reminds me of that show Once Upon a Time.
Yes. You know oh my goodness, yes.
And Captain Hook especially in that show is like
yes
dreamy. So I always think about that when you talk about those books.
You would like the first book is called Hooked, and you would love it.
Yes,
it is so
we've
good.
talked about this. I need to read this.
We just love men who are down bad for their women.
Honestly, which is how Ephraim was in this book. I adored their relationship. I think especially coming off of Broken Country where Frank was so great and didn't get that reciprocated. Seeing their marriage being so wholesome and just exactly how you said, like Ephraim loving her so much, but her not being dependent on him and having her own thing. You know, I really, really loved that. I did think it sucked that, like, I hated that he had to leave. I know that was written in there because, I mean, that was a device in the book to cause some like apprehension about him not getting back before the trial and whatnot.
Totally thought he was going to die. So
everybody thought that.
We all like, there was no way. She made him too lovable, too fantastic. I actually
never like predicted that he was going to die.
Really?
Now looking back, I'm like, I would have been even more devastated because I wasn't seeing that coming, you know? But I really loved their relationship. I thought it was really sweet, and it was good to see the reciprocal part of it after the last book, you know?
Absolutely.
But I did think that it was interesting, her like different relationships with her kids and whatnot. I don't know how you felt about that. Especially like we were just talking about, you have a brother who has disability, and Cyrus has like a disability, obviously not to the extreme that we were talking about with your brother, but how did you do with like reading about that relationship?
I loved it. I thought it was so cute. I think, being a parent, I only have the one right now, but I think, my niece, she lived with us first couple years of her life. It was just me, my sister, my mom, and her. And so there was little things of like, we would pick up, like my sister was going through a lot. We would do what we could. So it felt like that was my baby of like, not that my sister wasn't totally single momming it like a badass on her own. But it was little things that we would get through and we would have. And so like the love I have for her, feeling like she was just my own little precious baby, like you will have for Mila, because your niece is love for a niece is like such a different ballgame. Yes. And you don't have to do any disciplining. So it's great.
That's so true.
But the love I have for her, and then going in, like my niece is wild. She is going to do such amazing things. No person can stop. Insane. And then now going in with my daughter, she's so quiet. She's to herself. She is lovable. And there's such different relationships and such like intense love I feel for them. I know one isn't my child, but she feels like she's always been mine too.
But they're just different.
But it's so different. And it's the same way too. I feel like even for what I have for my different siblings, if I have an older brother and he's in his 30s and he's emotional like I am and stuff like that. And my dad we all have the same dad, but different moms on some of us. And so my older brother has a different mom than me. And like seeing the relationship my dad has with him versus what I have. Like my dad's good at trying to level off like some of the things, and they haven't always been super close. And then going same to my little brother who's got special needs. Like all of us are just obsessed with him, as you should be. And so, but I feel like my parents have done a really good job. Like my stepmom, especially, and my dad have done a great job trying to delineate the differences with that. So I was always super lovable and cuddly and obsessed with my little brother. My sister was not lovable and cuddly. And so I felt like they
you have to, like,
did such a good
to the different kids.
And so, but I think that's like such a beauty with parenting is those like amazing parents can do that. And you can see the differences, but not feel like jealous about it. Of like, I never felt my brother needed more attention. I never felt like jealous of that because that's what he needed. But I also felt like we got equal amounts on what they could handle. And same thing just with my mom and my sister.
In this book,
honestly, I felt like she had it good of like all the things.
And I felt like they were both really good about that. I mean, it definitely seemed like Martha took more of the parental role than Ephraim. Like he still was present and available and
protective too.
Very protective. I did feel like something I really liked about his character was that he had reactions to what happened, but he wasn't reactive, if that makes sense. Like he didn't act on his feelings or emotions. Like he definitely had them. Like Martha would tell him something that happened with the kids and he'd be like, what? But then he would kind of respect what her method of dealing with it was, But I feel like what you're describing like works really well in your family. I feel like they did really well.
Oh my gosh,
with this family. What were they? The Ballards? Maybe?
Ballards,
Okay,
and so I thought they did really good. I think Ephraim was amazing at like helping her hold her ground in the way in getting to different decisions she needed to make. Of like he would be there and just kind of like, I think there were times where he would like stop and like think. And just kind of like be quiet and let her just like talk through what she needed to. And I think that was helpful for her. Even the same thing of when he felt like he needed to say something, he would. But it was a few words.
Said you had feelings about. So tell me about that, because at some point he was like, I thought better of you, Martha. Like he was disappointed in her, because she didn't give the tonic or whatever it was for the woman that had the migraines, and she was married to
the judge or whatever
judge, and so I can't remember what his name was, but she was married to the really mean judge who was just terrible, and never got better. Like he had no redemptive qualities about
No, he was terrible.
And she, I think her name was like Ingrid or something. His wife, was it something like that? It was something like that. And she just fully backed him up, even though I mean she knows he's a terrible person. But she would fully back him up, even though like some of the instances that she was backing up she may not even have been present for or awake for or whatever. So then Martha refuses to give her this tonic to help with her horrible migraine,
and debilitating,
and Ephraim's really disappointed in her.
Right.
So you said you had feelings.
I loved it.
Okay.
And so in the way of like him saying that of I absolutely hated the wife. Like I thought she was terrible. I thought but also too, it comes to the point of like things I see in my own profession of people are just a whole other monster when they hurt. If they don't care, like it is a whole other thing of
I was going to ask, like you having a medical background because isn't there like a doctrine or something? It's like the
they have it.
Of medicine or whatever it is that like you're obligated to help when someone's in physical need or whatever. Or needs medical attention.
Yes.
And that was something that, like, to me, I'm maybe a little bit more morally ambiguous.
Right.
Like, I don't need help.
She didn't need to do that. No, it was.
But she
hard.
was in the line of medicine, and at some point she does realize that, and she's like, "I should do better," and she brings her the tonic, or whatever it is, medicine,
right?
But I was curious how you felt about that.
It was hard at first, when she did it. I was like, "Hell yeah, don't give it to her," and then I was like, "Wait, she is. Who knows where she was at? She was probably laying in bed for 2 or 3 days." And that's such a hard thing too. I think doctors of medicine. I'm a doctor of PT, so ours is a little different, but the main thing is we learn all these ways to help people. We can do the exact reverse if we wanted to. I know how
it's crazy
to easily paralyze somebody. It's the things that go through. You learn every nerve, artery.
Don't make an enemy of Hailey.
But it's things like that they do tell you, because you learn all these ways to help people. You know the exact ways it can go wrong and how easily it can go wrong and how easily you could just avoid that. Let that person, like there's been plenty of cases of like, we can do this one thing, but this is a lot of work. And we know just like this infection will just take this person out and let them go. Yeah. Or things like that of, I can't say as much for medical doctors, but for us, like for some people really getting them better if you have any spine issues, any like neuro issues, stuff like that. So traumatic brain injuries, anything like if you have a aneurysm, stuff like that. It's a lot of work. Yeah. And so anything, and migraines are a whole different ballgame, because there's just like hardly any research to fully understand what goes on with it. Yeah. And so, but the main thing is kind of like it was with COVID, it's symptom relief is what it is. And so you can look to kind of find different things, but it's so hard if you get those patients who are just terrible and they're so rude and they're so awful, and it's just so you just want to be like, you know what, you don't want to get help, go. But then there's just things of she is not the product of her husband's actions, right? And so she is, like, the way she is acting now is a product of her husband, but she is not what her husband does, and that's such a hard thing too. Of like it is frustrating, but I did love Ephraim for being able to immediately off the spot see that, because I wouldn't have immediately. My thing would have been like, if that had been like my sister and who had gotten raped by this guy, and I had to go give her something to make his wife feel better, and his wife testified against my sister in court, that would be such a hard thing, especially because now I could just be like, you can go see whatever other professional, you're not coming to see me. Back then that was the only person that had an option. That was all she had, and so it's just so hard. I get it, but I did love the immediate, like how much his brain immediately went there. I would probably need my husband to tell me and remind me.
Yeah, it shows he is truly a justice seeker, you know, and that was something that they separated a lot of the men in the book by that, like, because you could tell that, I mean, the Ballard men or whatever were very honorable, and just there was something innate in them that was like, I want to do the right thing. And Ephraim was like that, and he taught his boys that. Right. And then there were other characters like the nasty judge who, like, he goes through war and he comes out with a different lesson. The life lesson here isn't that I should do the right thing or I should do the just thing or the honorable thing. It's that I should do the best thing for me, and that I should do the best thing to come out on top, you know? Right. And so it was just so interesting, which I do feel like in general, men kind of like that I don't know, their motivations are so different. Yes. I hate to like stereotype men versus women or anything, but just naturally, like because of the like testosterone and stuff like that, like there are just different motivations for men. Yeah. And so it's like, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah. But that was really interesting to me. And I really love a couple where like they hold each other accountable.
Yes.
And I felt like Martha and Ephraim were a really good example of that. And that's something that I really like because, well, no one will be surprised by this if they know Jared and me, but Jared definitely holds me accountable. He like definitely questions me. It's just his personality to like question things whenever they're like, what? That's not right. Or, you know, something like that. And so I do think it's a good thing. And I think it's better than just like letting your spouse do whatever and like do the wrong thing, you know?
Yeah,
especially like when you disagree with it. So I don't know. I really, really did like that. I felt, so there was that was kind of a gray area, the situation with her. Yeah. But I also felt like, okay, the situation with her friend who got raped and had the baby that from her.
The one that the judge and what's his name?
Yes, that the trial was surrounding.
Okay, yes. Okay.
So with her like really not wanting the baby and honestly not even wanting to have the baby, I was like, I was kind of like, this is another intense gray area that this author is talking
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I think she talks so hard on those difficult decisions of, you know, now this is going into all the medical things around abortion and stuff like that of whose choice is it? Should you have to carry that baby to term? Should you have to do these things? And not to get into all that, but I think that was calling on it before you could of what do you do back then? You know, then you're saying, was it fornication that you would get charged for?
Oh my
Another thing, the men had nothing.
Oh
the
my
women had to
God.
get charged for it. Like she just was a Virgin Mary herself and made this baby on her own.
So
but
stupid.
it was just so frustrating. And I think I love the way the author called on all of those different things of back then of like, you know, new things coming out. You have no idea what to do. And I think that was such a hard one of I understood where she was coming from of just the deep like frustration, the hate, the anger, everything of I myself, I don't know if I could give up a baby, but I think that's coming into the whole moral obligation as a healthcare worker as something of it's not your choice. Like it is your patient's choice that at the end of the day, this is what it is. And I think Martha was trying to see it through of like, hey, you might regret this. If the baby came to term, what would happen from there? How would you feel? Would you just instantly love it and be like, no, absolutely, this is like a product, something terrible, I can make it great? Or will she react the way she did? And I think I loved Martha for not being like, no, this is your baby, hold it, love it, do whatever of, yes, it's a human life and that should be respected. And finding something, I loved Martha for not just like tossing it in the river.
Oh my God.
I was so scared, which I knew Martha wouldn't.
Throw it in the river. I'm like,
oh, I know. I mean, and that's so hard, but I loved like.
And Martha was such a strong character that I was like, there's like a chance that she would do
She
that.
might just be like, okay, but what could I do and what go with the baby have? Otherwise, of where's this baby going to come from?
I know.
You know, but then I loved, I can't remember her name, but the one that took her, because she took her initially over there just because she knew she would be able to feed the baby. And that was the initial thing. But then it seemed like instantly, like then we're calling in like adoption kind of going through, of working through of Martha, like, okay, a first thing isn't to do this. Let's figure out someone else can help. And she was like, my thing was just to get the baby fed. We can figure it out from there. I fully think Martha and Ephraim would have taken care of that baby and gone from there. And or somebody would have, like, you know, that could call into a question. There were probably other couples who couldn't get pregnant, things like that. There was something that could have happened. And so I thought she like brought so many somehow into one book, like so many little things of that, of like the power dynamics of a couple, like the things with your relationships with your family, and what would Jonathan do with Sally's baby? He had to be there for that baby. I think he was great, but do we have to be together? Do we have to get married? All that kind of stuff. Like I loved it, and so, but it was so hard to read.
Yeah, she did a really, really good job with introducing just lots of questions that you naturally have through life. And just showing that, I mean, it doesn't matter what time frame it is, these questions are still going to be asked. It's still going to, of course, like at that time, there were just so many other things that were unfair, you know? And we're still working through some of those things now.
Like the same thing with the doctor when he came in. Oh, that brought back so much irritation.
Oh, yeah.
The doctor.
Like the Harvard doctor comes in and he's like, oh, well, I'm a doctor of medicine and I'm graduated from Harvard or whatever. And she's like, okay, but have you ever delivered a baby? No. And then he kills 3 of them.
I know. FYI, guys, it doesn't matter where they got their degree. I can promise you. But like it is experience.
Yeah.
Is the heaviest thing of, yes, you want to have the education. The education is important. I could tell you, walking out of PT school, I could not ever just jump into a thing and be 100% ready. It comes from time. It comes from effort.
That's why there's residency. I mean, that's why there's so much time that you're required to watch and practice.
Right. A book is not the same thing. Experience is so important. And I think the biggest thing too then calls into the power dynamic of male versus female. Well, he has this degree. I think regardless if a man had walked in without the degree or not, everything she had would be called into question. Like, that's just what it is. It's such a hard thing of then all the men getting to make decisions of, well, my husband called, and you don't want to irritate the husband. And so it's just like, I never in my life would I jump to that. Like, being a medical professional, 100% would jump to the nurse who has been working on a delivery floor for 30 years to deliver my baby. Right. Before I would jump to, okay, Harvard grad who's never delivered a baby. Right. I never, even now still.
Yeah. Well, and he said something like what I just said about the practice thing. Like, he had said, like, well, it's a practice, Martha. Like, you have to practice. That's why it's called that. And she says, how dare you practice on your wife? Like, I really, really liked that because he's like, well, yeah, you're going to lose patience sometimes. And it's like, that's life. That's literally like a person's life. Right. You can't just look at it so flippantly and like hold it with such little regard.
You don't see your patients as practice. Yeah. I can tell you all the ones that I can still name off of things that just didn't work for them. It bothers me. I don't know where they are, where they went, what happened. They were hurting. I couldn't figure out what to do. What we were doing wasn't working. I called their doctors. I called their neurologist. I called all the things. And it's so frustrating. But like you said, if it's a patient itself is not the practice. Now, the practice, if it is a practice, you have to get better, but his initial thought should have been, okay, let me watch her deliver this baby. Yeah. Like, I'm going to come over and watch. I want to see what you do. And let's see of like, hey, if can make this more sterile, if we can make this to where this mom might not be in as much pain, why don't we try this instead of like dousing them up with medication?
Oh my God. His like entry into the book was when he just gives that pregnant woman and he says, oh yeah, pregnancy is harder for you because you're like highborn or whatever. I'm like, oh my goodness. His entry to the book was
terrible.
I felt like it was really well done by the author to just, you're not going to like him.
No, it was awful.
He's a villain. He's actually surprisingly not like the worst villain of the book.
I know, somehow.
Or even the second or third worst in some cases. But he was just so frustrating and just such a know-it-all that actually knew nothing, you know? So yeah, he was a really frustrating character. How did you feel, this is not related, but how did you feel about the, like, kind of the climax with Martha and the judge and the cutting off his penis thing? Like, how did you feel about that? I felt like there were mixed opinions about that in book club.
It seems so, like, it was dramatic. And it's why, like, it seems so, like, Hollywood. Like, this is, like, the big ending on this big thing. But I think as much as it is, like, looking back, if you had been in that situation, like, how much I would have, like, loved to chop that dude's penis off. Yeah. And I was just, like, it weirdly felt like such, like, a hell yes. Like, this is what I wanted. This is what people in that situation had wanted. Like, how much you, like, just look at them and you're like, you shouldn't even be able to use that ever again. Like, you being in prison doesn't change anything. You being out doesn't do anything. But if I know you can be out and you can't even use the thing, you want me more? I part of me was like, cinematic masterpiece. But then another part was just like, okay, dramatic. Yeah. But I knew as soon as they named that, whatever it was, like that,
it was some kind of knife.
Revenge or something they call. I was like, oh, this is gonna be on something. I was so scared someone would die with it, that Ephraim would, like, be her, or somebody like Jonathan would use it on somebody. I was like, okay, where is this going to be used? Because as soon as like I feel like an author names something, like the little fox, which I feel like was unnecessary, but I'm back and forth with how I feel about the fox. But but I knew it would be on something, and so I mean, but it was just like that was like the kind of the scary moment, I would say, the biggest, like, heightened trigger warning, I guess, in the book towards the end of the whole thing. I thought it was smart because I know they said like, oh my gosh, it's going on. And well, she was trying to get him to keep talking because she knew Ephraim would be back at some point.
Yeah.
And so that's honestly the only thing you can do in that situation is keep them talking, keep them off you, figuring out what you can do kind of via your time if you need to. Maybe you can calm them down. Who knows how long 50-year-old dude can last. So maybe it could be something that is just like,
yeah.
And so, you know, it's one of those where it was like the whole time I was like, okay, he's still talking. She's still backing up. She's getting closer. And I kind of like felt it, like my heart was like racing. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I thought she was going to like slit his throat or something.
I thought so too. Yeah.
I thought it was smart the way she thought of it as like a medical professional. You don't want him to die.
Yeah.
On the thing of, okay, yeah, maybe it's dramatic to go for the penis. Like you could have gone for like cut an ankle. Now he can't walk. Like go for the back of the leg. He can't stand. Or something, or like cut his hip, I don't know, anything you could have gone, but I was like, it's still, I liked it as dramatic as I loved
it too,
so.
Honestly. Yeah. I feel like people's issues with it was that it was for such a serious book and very technical book in some ways that it was kind of cartoonish to like chop his dick off, you know?
Right.
But I loved it. I so much rather that happen than him die. And just because of the justice of, okay, now you have to live without the thing that you have been using to abuse people for so long.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, it just seemed like he was in the habit of raping women.
Lord knows how much had happened beforehand.
Legit, yeah.
Him and that other dude, too.
Yes.
Was so frustrating.
So disgusting.
So frustrating. And I did, like, the time it was taking, he was explaining why he had done it too. Of like, all this for Indians. That's it. Or Native American people. All this for Native American people. That was your hatred so hard of just having like, what I think they said like 13 times she brought in Native Americans into the town. In the how many years or time it had been there, that is what inclined you to like rape her and do that. What is...
To me,
people are just so psychotic.
To me, like he said that was that was a reason for it. But to me, it was like, he was, at his core, he was a rapist.
Oh, 100%.
He wanted that power. He wanted the power of sexually abusing a woman. And I feel like, he had definitely done it like in the past. Because him being ready to do it to Martha right in that moment, like that's when it switches and you're like, I mean, I think the whole time you believe that he's a rapist, but like nothing confirms it necessarily. And except for the testimony. But then in that moment, it's like, wow, he's like actually kind of like, there's probably a pattern of this.
Oh yeah.
And so to me, it felt like there were probably other victims of his that he made up some excuse, like the Native American thing, like, oh, well, she did this, she did that, like whatever, this was inexcusable. I had to teach her a lesson, like whatever. And I felt like maybe he was actually not upset about the Native American thing, but I'm like, no, actually he just at his core just wanted to abuse women. Right. And wanted to have the power over them sexually. I know. And so it was, I loved it. Like I did feel like it was out of place for the, like this climactic scene, like you said, like the drama of it, the Hollywood of it. It was a little bit out of place for the way the rest of the book was written and like the types of scenes that happened. Right. But what was she gonna do? Roundhouse kick him? Like, to me, I didn't care. I was like, I like this so much better than other ways that it could have gone. And I did love, as cheesy as it is, I did love kind of the knight in shining armor, like Ephraim showing up. Yes. I loved that the horse that booted her was kind of like the one that ended up saving her because that's how Ephraim realizes something's wrong because she's not on him and has to go race to help her. Like I loved it. I didn't mind that it was cheesy or corny or cartoonish or whatever, you know. But I did feel like, it is a little bit different than the rest of the book, but I think that's okay. Like I feel like the author was making a point at that point. That was kind of where her voice was being, like she was showing her voice a little bit. Right. And I really liked it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I love dramatics, you know me. Anything that makes me feel, I love. And so I love the dramatics of it. I thought it was interesting. I think it gave her a thing because even though Ephraim came in, I think true in the fashion of the book, she needed to be the one to save herself in a way. Of even though Ephraim helped, like it needed to be something of, again, now it's coming back to
this middle ground of he was there to support her. He was there and he's like, okay, let's talk it through. What's going on? What do we do?
Yes.
And so it was never immediately at all like, Martha, what are you doing with him? Blah, 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 blah. It was like, oh my gosh, like this, something bad is happening. I know my wife, what's going on? But also Martha was able to do that herself.
Yeah.
No blame could be on anybody else. It was something that she was able to do. I will say I did not like that much her bringing the box with the penis in it to Sarah. I think was her name. I was like, I feel like I could have done without that. That was a little odd.
It was.
Because I don't know how I would feel if I had been in that situation. Someone brought it to me. I'd be like, you can just tell me. Like, you could just tell me you cut it off.
Like, man move. Honestly, as much as we're saying, like, Ephraim's sensitive and honorable and all this stuff, like, only a guy would be like, oh, you know what? You know what she'll really love is seeing his dick chopped off.
Right.
And no woman would be like, I think that if it was Martha, like, she wouldn't have been like, you know what we should do? Wrap it up in a nice box and take it to, like, I just don't.
You lost a baby, but now you gained his penis.
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah. I think that's just like such a male minded thing to do. Yeah. I guess. Like, I feel like women would not think like that's something that they'll appreciate.
Right.
You know?
Like, part of me wonders if the judge tried to come back, I'd be like, I've got something important like hidden, by the way, unless you want to see it. And I like have it as a backup. He tried to say, like, no, she didn't. It's like, how did I come to possess this?
Oh my gosh. That
part
is
of
so
me,
funny.
like that part, I would be like
it may be hostage or what's that called? It's like blackmailing.
Yeah, pretty much. Of like, I would if he tried to say something again and like get snippy with me and be like, by the way, if you want to stop by and see like this thing I acquired,
I have a souvenir.
Let me
from
know.
The night of whatever day it was.
Because I'm sorry, he never said anything. It can be anywhere now. He could say it happened in a freak accident somewhere. You can't say that if I hold this little thing in my hand.
That's so true.
Which we all know is probably little. So
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I know. So I ended up rating it 4 stars.
Yeah.
And that was because, so it was really hard for me to read. And I think honestly, I've had like a lot of women give birth recently. Like I don't have a like, thank God, I don't have a history of like sexual assault or rape or anything like that. But those scenes, there were like multiple scenes. And I did read the author's note, and the main character that was testifying, I actually thought her name was like Rachel or something. But
that sounds familiar.
I could be wrong. But she actually, like, in the history of the midwife that Martha was based off of, in her journal, she had actually recorded that she had been raped 3 times in 1 week by 3 men, not 2. It was just terrible.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was just really heavy for me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wasn't in the right mind space, like, to read it.
Yeah.
So when I finished it, I felt like in my body felt like, like a 3-star kind.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I feel like in a different place in my in my reading journey, I would have probably given it 5 stars because I felt like it was so well written.
Right.
And I love the historical aspect of it. I love how many questions it brought up, the depth that it. The depth and complexity of it. I felt like it was just really well done.
Yes.
And so I like met in the middle and gave it a 4.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was a great book. I just would probably tell someone before reading it, like, read this whenever you want something that's going to like challenge you and is going to probably make you emotional and upset and is a little bit like deeper, you know?
Right.
Don't read this if you're in the mood for like a fun fall romance.
Last year we did the Pumpkin Spice Cafe.
Yeah, this couldn't have been any more different. Yeah,
I saw that. Because my mom was asking too. I talk to my mom all the time, but she was like, "What cute one are you doing for yours?" And I was like, "Oh,
it's not a cute one.
It's about a midwife, and there's a rape in town, and it's going through all." And she was like, "Oh," and she's like, "Aren't a couple of girls in your group having a baby?" I was like, yeah, they're not going to read this time around. And I was like, that's good.
Yeah, it did work out that it was baby month for both, both of the ones that were pregnant, because they had already been like, I'm not committed to reading a book this month. So.
And they should not be. And I was like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so then going through, I was just like, whew. Yeah. Like the women first and now this. And so next time it will be it
was still so good though. I mean, there were tons of 4s and 5s still. And I think also, like, we haven't even talked about that there was like a murder. That was how it opened. The book. was the person that drowned, drowned. Well, they didn't drown. They got hanged. They were hanged and then found in the river and all that. That was kind of how it opened. And to me, I feel like, a book's really well done whenever there's a murder and that's the thing that you're honestly kind of least interested in.
Yeah.
Like there's all these other things going on. And I was like, honestly, at this point, I don't even care what happened to this guy.
Right.
I need to know what's going to happen with this court case and what's going to happen with the pregnant women and just all of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it was one of those things too of, that was the beginning part of it and trying to go through, but it was a thing of, no one cared for justice for that dude. Like it could have been every person in town conspiring and no one would have cared. I would have been like, cool, that's great. I love that town for doing that because he was terrible. And so I think it was one of those of who cared if he got justice. I was just curious because I knew it wasn't Cyrus when they were saying it. And I just don't think I was just like a sweet little boy. I wanted more for him in the end. I wanted to hear him get something or someone. I was happy for the one who was dating the military guy and he came back.
Sally.
No, I think Sally was Jonathan's.
Okay.
Oh, maybe Sarah. I don't know. And so whatever her name was, I was happy for her. I was happy he came back. Yeah. I thought it was sweet, like a sweet ending of okay, this girl's not just lovesick crazy. She knew this man would come back. She believed in his promise. He did. Yeah. And she wasn't embarrassed of what she had done. And I thought that was also another great, I feel like in another life that could have been Martha, and Martha would have been like, I don't care. Ephraim will come back. We all know Ephraim and we know Ephraim would come back.
Right.
And so I loved that for her. But I also appreciated too that it wasn't this poor girl in this bad situation. She's kind of meh. So let's give her to the guy who's disabled. Right. I thought it was sweet of not that she's less than because of what she had, but in the book they're portraying her as less than. So let's give her to the guy we think of as less than.
Right.
But I wanted a little something for him. But guessing with how it is, of how they were saying, and back in the day, he probably would never have a family, which is heartbreaking. But
and a couple of girls in our group had recommended reading the author's note, which I think that more people in our group read the author's note this time than ever because people were saying that. And so I read it as well. And one thing that they said was that for the midwife that they based Martha off of, in her journal, one of her sons, Cyrus, had never married, and they didn't really know why. He never married and never had a family. They didn't really know why. They didn't know if it was because of a disability or something. So the author just kind of created that. Right. Just decided, okay, it's because he's mute. Because back in the day, it could have been because you had a disability, or it could have been because it could have been because you were mute, or it could have been because you were paralyzed from the bottom down, or it could have been all sorts of different things reasons that you don't have a family. And so she just kind of decided that was going to be the reason why. And I really liked that she kind of wrote in a little bit of a history of why too, with not the plague, but whatever it was that they got.
I think it was a plague.
Okay.
And so I think it was. Okay, they call it something different, but
they call it something different, but that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so I did think that was interesting. And I felt like, based off of the author's note, she was true to them saying he never had anything. Right. So even though it was sad, I think it felt like the author was pretty committed to staying as close to Martha's, journal entries as she could. Right. So I did like that. I did want more for Cyrus as well. But also I do think that there are people that can be happy never having married and remaining with their parents. And, that still is a loving family and home for them. So, and he will probably man the family farm in the future.
Which is true. So yeah. And so he probably needed the help. Yeah. And everything. So
I really liked that he wasn't that he was a mute, but he wasn't fully, he was very capable outside of that.
Right.
So it would have been nice to see more for him, but I did like that the author was kind of I wanted to be true to what happened. So
yeah, I thought it all together ended well. I liked Judge couldn't say anything again. Yeah. I gave it a 5. I gave it a 5 star.
5. Yeah,
I loved it. And so going through, I thought it was heavy. There was a 100-page spurt between 200 and 300 pages where things were kind of slow for a little bit. And you're like, hey, what's going on? But I thought it was good for the buildup of everything.
Yeah.
I think, that was during the time where like Ephraim had to go, like the judge was kind of like setting the scene for what was going to go on. You were waiting for the court trial.
I actually
trying to figure out what's going on with Jonathan.
I actually didn't feel a lot of slow spots in this book.
No, that's good.
I think I read it in 2 or 3 days, and the thing that kept me the most from wanting to pick it up was just like, do I want to be heartbroken today?
I know every time I was getting through it, I think I flew through it because I was like, where does Ephraim die?
Right. Oh my gosh,
I was so freaked out. I was like, no one makes a male character this fantastic without her. Like in Broken Country, where like it just destroyed Frank, and I knew her, and I think that's like also calling on too of why I loved Martha so much is there wasn't like a doubt in my mind she wouldn't, but I also feel like it's because and then going too of like a woman being able to establish herself in something and going through, I feel like when you both are established in what you want to do in life, you know what you're doing, you both are strong people together of like, of course, yes, we all depend on each other for something of like, that's just human nature. That's who we are as people. We wouldn't be able to live in society if we didn't all do that. Like we'd all be off in our own little spaces, ignoring each other. Yeah. But I think it was awesome. And I think why it worked out so much better and why the relationship is because I feel like in Broken Country, Frank came in and like saved her, and it was just like, yeah, it's what it is, and yeah, I'll work on the farm. That's what I've got, and never like fully found herself. Like I feel like she found herself as a mother, and that changed something. Like she settled, and I feel like that's what it was. And I feel like for Martha, like I don't think it was possible for Martha to settle. Like she just wouldn't if she had her own, and not to take away from women who are at home and just finding their things and finding their peace with that. But and that has nothing to do with it. I just think in that other book, she hadn't found herself,
and I think that. In Broken Country, the song was more of a woman who did settle and like kind of lived with some regret of her choices and whatnot. Whereas I think that what I really liked about Frozen River was it felt like a story about women can do both.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it was a very similar situation where actually it wasn't. I forget that in Frozen River, they lead you to believe that she got pregnant with her abuser's baby.
Yeah, kind of, but it wasn't.
But then it turns out she didn't. But she does marry young because of that scare.
Yeah.
And then, like settles in with Frank and Ephraim and whatnot.
Same guy.
They're so similar. Yeah, but she settles in with Ephraim and whatnot. But then she does end up finding something else. And I just loved that it showed you can do both if you want to.
Right.
You know, like that
absolutely.
That doesn't have to be your story. There were other women in the book that didn't.
Of course. Yeah.
But you can find a passion and a career that you love or whatever, and also still be a mom and a wife and a homesteader and whatever.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I did really like that difference.
Oh, for sure.
It felt like a very different statement about women's lives.
Yeah. And I also felt like it was also Ephraim too leading a lot of it. Him teaching her how to read was huge. He gave her that safe space to grow and learn how to read and learn how to write and take her time for when she felt comfortable. And I always love it. Like one of my favorite parts in the book was when he was like, it was funny the way I pictured him. He was just like naked behind her, and she was like, he just does that. But then he was talking to her and being sweet, and she's like, and this is why we had 9 kids. I'm just like,
I know. She's like, is it a wonder that I had 9 children with this man? I'm like get it, girl.
I hope I'm still so down bad. Like for my husband when I'm, she was 50, I think.
I think so
50 something. And so I know I will be because he's great. But it's just one of those things where I just thought it was so precious of like, it's themed in all phases of life. They both were there for each other. And that's why I love this book, because I felt like in all things, I'm just like, man, if we had so many more of her and Ephraim's back in that time, we would be like so much further ahead. I know. But it's okay. Yeah. Like I love the fight of where we're at and doing
I love
what we
this. Do. Yeah, I love this book too. I would definitely recommend it. I feel like it was honestly tough because I rated Broken Country a 4 as well. And I rated this a 4, but I actually think I like this better than Broken Country. So I would probably recommend it before that one. Especially if you want a similar. Now, I probably wouldn't say like read this for like to get fall vibes. I actually feel like this would have been a really good like December, January book.
Yeah.
For me, like for what I like to read in different seasons of the year. But yeah, I loved it too. I think it was a great pick, and I know you're like I always pick the hard hitters, like really sad books, but I love the hard hitters, and I feel like in book club we go through so many different genres. That it's good to have like every once in a while like a really hard hitting one or like a really this one was very historical fiction.
Yes.
And I really, really liked it. So I was into it.
Yeah, we got good diversity here, which is why everyone should read and listen.
Yes.
And so,
well, thank you so much for joining us. Was there any last thing you wanted to talk about with the book that we didn't cover?
No, I think we got
okay. Yeah, we really went through it.
Yeah.
Well, next month we are reading The Academy by Is it Ellen or Aaron? Ellen Hildebrand? Ellen?
I know it's Hildebrandt, but I can't.
Yeah, it's definitely The Academy. It's a newer one by her. She also wrote The 5-Star Weekend, which I read that one. But
Ellen. It's Ellen.
Ellen.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes I'm like, I second guess myself.
I know, same.
So we're reading that one in November. So at some point we'll have our book club episode. It'll be like probably second or third week of November because we're meeting the first week. When you close on your house.
I know, same day, but I close at 4. So I told my husband, I was like, okay, we need to sign really quickly and then I need to go.
But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it a ton. If you guys like this episode, please leave us a comment. Let us know if you read this book, what you thought of it. We would love to see a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, and then if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe, give us a rating and a review. And thanks again, Hailey, for joining.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Cheers! Yay!